All right, this is COGS 9 final project. Does Fandango overrate movies by JBMN with Jimmy?
Brian.
Mia.
And Nicole.
And our question is, does Fandango overrate movies compared to other rating agencies? And our hypothesis is that Fandango does overrate movies compared to other rating agencies. To decide whether it is worth it to go through the effort of buying a movie, you might look at reviews to see if it's worth your time. And there are many different movie rating agencies with some particularly popular options like Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, IMDb, and Fandango, just to name a few. And each of these rating agencies scores movies in their own unique way, typically aggregating a variety of different factors, including box office quality, professional critic reviews, and audience ratings. However, what makes Fandango different than other popular sites for movie reviews is that the site also sells movie tickets, and Fandango would have a potentially vested interest in keeping movie ratings high on their site, considering the significant impact movie reviews have on ticket sales. And we hypothesize that Fandango overrates movies compared to other review platforms, either by influencing audience reviews or by manipulating the review metrics that make them appear higher.
And the ideal data set we would use to answer this question would include ratings for over 100 movies from Fandango and other major review sites, as well as a weighted average of the other site's scores. And 538's Fandango score comparison data set actually meets these needs, as it has 147 movies, ratings from 5 sources, and a column showing the difference between Fandango's score and the other four's combined ratings to compare them together. And while more data could be used to strengthen the analysis, 147 movies is sufficient enough, and additional entries, if need be, could be scraped from movie rating APIs.
Okay, so this is the ethical considerations for data collection. The Fandango data set we are using is publicly accessible through 538, and the reviews are scattered, so individual users are not noted or involved. We should also be transparent about our data sources and overall collection methods. For data storage or data should be stored securely and responsibly with version control and backups in a protected cloud environment accessible only to the project team. The group has agreed to make the data publicly available after the project is completed. For data analysis, care must be taken to interpret the data objectively, avoiding selective use that favors hypothesis. The primary goal is to fairly compare Fandango with other sites using proper statistical methods to support valid conclusions.
And to model our data, we will use a paired t-test to compare the ratings for the same movies across the different platforms. And this would help check if Fandango's scores are significantly higher or just a random variation of scores. And then in order to model our data, so since our data is publicly made sure to note that, and we'll present the results clearly and objectively using appropriate visualizations and avoiding unsupported claims. And then as far as analysis proposal goes for data collection, in order to expand beyond 2015, an option would be to add more data via like APIs or, like we said earlier, web scraping. And so each movie must have Fandango and at least 2 other platform ratings matched by title and the release year in order to stay consistent. And for data wrangling, to prepare the data, irrelevant columns and duplicates will automatically be removed by us, and then ratings normalized from a 0 to 5 scale, and titles will be standardized as well. And the new columns show Fandango versus others, so other review platforms, and then incomplete entries are dropped in order to ensure quality overall. And then I included a picture of the data wrangling process in order to see like how to wrangle the data.
And to analyze the 538 dataset, we start with the descriptive statistics by calculating the mean and median for each rating source. So this would include the 5 rating sources, including the Fandango difference column. And by comparing these variables, this lets us know how far the Fandango ratings are from the other ratings. And if the difference is significant, then we can move to the EDA. And for the exploratory analysis, we'd examine kind of how Fandango's like deviations relate to the spread of the other sites' ratings. And we can identify the ranges for what would kind of be outliers in differences between ratings for the other four sites. And then we can see if the ratings, if the difference in ratings from the Fandango ratings to the other four sites is an outlier compared to the difference within the other four sites. And from this, we can see if it's too big of an outlier, then the Fandango difference would be hypothesized to overrate movies.
And after our analysis, we could begin to visualize the data to see if Fandango does indeed rate their movies higher than other agencies. And Fandango only rates movies to the nearest half star, so we decided to display the distribution of movie ratings as continuous distributions. And we are looking at, as you can see, Fandango rounds their movie scores on their website. So you can see from the figure that they round their scores up, and the distribution of the Fandango scores that are displayed are higher than the actual scores. And as you can see, Fandango compared to other agencies typically rates their movies higher than other agencies. And we're looking at for the mean ratings of movie agencies, we're looking at one numerical value for each different category. So a bar chart was an excellent choice to display the mean ratings for agencies. And as you can see from the data, Fandango's average scores are higher than other rating agencies.
And for our in-depth analysis, we can kind of run a t-test to compare the means of Fandango's ratings with the other four sites. And this provides a more precise measure than just EDA alone, and it helps evaluate whether Fandango's ratings are statistically higher. And the t-test statistic, along with the other variables in the data set, like the Fandango difference, could then be kind of used in a classification model to predict whether Fandango overrates movies as like a weighted combination of all those variables. And the t-test statistic would just be one of them.
And using supervised prediction analysis, we can predict if Fandango scores are overrating movies. First, we would split our data into a training set and a testing set, one of which will be used to train our model, and the other of which will be used to see how accurately our model performs. The next step is feature selection, where we choose which features to include in our model that will most accurately predict whether Fandango overrates movies. And relevant features would include the agency scores for each movie, normalized to be on the same scale, as well as user ratings for agencies. And the next step is a model selection. Since we're trying to predict a categorical variable, that is whether a movie is over or underrated, this is a classification problem. And then the final step is that using our training set to evaluate our model, we can then use the testing set to see how well our model performed.
So for the discussion portion, the analysis of Fandango's movie ratings is limited by several factors. The data set from 538 only captures ratings from 2015, which raises concerns about its relevance to current practices. There is also selection bias, as only users who buy tickets through Fandango can leave reviews, potentially skewing the ratings. Additionally, differences in how rating platforms calculate and present scores also makes direct comparisons difficult. While a paired t-test is used to address some inconsistencies, it relies on assumptions that may not fully hold. Predictive modeling also has its limitations, such as overfitting due to the small sample size and the risk of misinterpreting correlation as causation. Ethically, the researchers avoid overstating results or implying intentional manipulation without strong evidence. They aim to provide transparency and include disclaimers to prevent public misinterpretation.